Did a Green New Deal vote come up?
Yeah, he said, make sure you don't kill it too much because I want to run against it.
Make sure you don't kill it too much because I want to run against it. Those words coming from Senator Lindsey Graham on Capitol Hill Tuesday when asked how President Trump felt about the Green New Deal. Make sure you don't kill it too much because I want to run against it. As of late night, the Senate, not surprisingly, failed to move forward with the Green New Deal. But with the 2020 election on the horizon, the partisan clash over how to address the climate crisis is probably only going to get worse. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, climate change is happening. And it's happening now. Just last week, Africa saw one of the worst weather disasters the continent has ever seen. Cyclone Idai brought deadly 120-mile-per-hour winds, lashing rains, flooding, and landslides across 3 different countries. The death toll now over 750. All right, the same week, massive floods took over America's Midwest. The flooding was caused by sudden warm weather combined with unusually high snowmelt, and forecasters warn it's only going to get worse as we head into spring. NASA reports that the Thwaites Glacier on Antarctica's western coast has contributed to about 4% of the world's rising sea levels, and just last month, scientists discovered an enormous underwater cavity that will likely speed up the glacier's decay. That cavity is 2/3 the size of Manhattan. And let's not forget the tragic weather events we saw here at home last year. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration studied 14 catastrophic weather events in the U.S. alone that added up to a total of $1 billion in damages. Those events included Hurricanes Florence, Michael, and the devastating fires, the wildfires out west. The same year, another NOAA report found that 2018 was the 4th warmest year ever recorded on Earth. Take a look at the other ones. 2016, 2015, 2017. We are in the 4 of the 5 warmest years ever recorded on Earth. Joining me now, former Deputy Undersecretary at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the founder of Our Daily Planet, Monica Medina. Monica, good to see you again. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Ali. It's great to be here today. Thanks for having me.
I think there are lots of reasons why reasonable people might have criticisms about the Green New Deal or whether they can price it out properly or what it's going to cost. I'm fascinated that Donald Trump thinks that he should keep this alive so that he can run against it. It's a bit bizarre. The President of the United States is banking on a win from voters for his party by going against policies that would benefit the environment.
I know, it's crazy. I never agree with the president on this one. I totally agree. Let's keep the Green New Deal in the conversation for the election because I think it's a winner for Democrats. 80% of all Americans want clean air, clean water, safe drinking water, and clean power, clean energy from wind and solar. Those are not divisive issues in our country. There is overwhelming agreement in red states, in blue states, north, south, east, west, everywhere. That's what the public wants. So if the president wants to run on his record on those things, bring it on.
All right, so 27% of Americans do not accept climate change. About 23% of Americans think that Barack Obama was a Kenyan-born Muslim. About 24% of Americans think that we walk amongst aliens. So I guess it's not crazy that 27% don't accept that the world is warming. What is crazy is that why are Republicans completely not in sync with that number, that 73% of Americans who actually do believe in it?
I personally don't understand it at all, and I think actually this is going to be a very difficult issue for a lot of Republicans who are up for election in 2020. A lot of those senators in places like Colorado or in Florida or North Carolina are going to be running from this issue because even they now admit that climate change is happening. You can't look around us. But even in the Midwest, think about it. There are millions of people who are being affected by those floods. Kansas City's water was potentially contaminated over the weekend. A million people have water that they get for drinking from drinking wells, and those are potentially contaminated. These issues are everywhere. People see them and they know them. I think it's why it's starting to take root in the country. People want to talk about them. The candidates get asked about them everywhere they go. So I think the Republicans are kidding themselves, and the vote in the Senate yesterday was just, I think, going to make them look bad in the end because they didn't even give the issue any kind of serious consideration. It was just, Senator Lee and his posters.
Yeah, about having
Seriously.
more kids, and the EPA administrator, the boss of the EPA, saying we don't need to really worry about this. It's 50 to 75 years out. Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.